Welcome to the regular scheduled instructional policy meeting of the Akron Board of Education. There's no need to approve the previous board minutes, and so we'll move right along with Dr. Tamia Caver.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Board. Good afternoon, Ms. Jackson. Thank you so much for turning it over to our instructional policy meeting today. On today's agenda, we're going to review the previous minutes you'll see from our October 14th meeting. They are there for you all to view. And then today we have some guests. We are going to go into a presentation. We have two visitors today on our agenda. So the first one, we are going to be having a presentation where we are going to learn, I don't know which order they're in, but we have two visitors. First, we're going to be talking about the third round of our essential experiences with GAR. And so we have some visitors here with us today as we talk about that. And then also, we also want to talk about one of our expanded learning opportunities that we piloted this summer with SWAG. And so we have some visitors here to talk to us about that experience. So we want to share both of those with our board members today. I'm going to turn it over to Marcy Ebright, our Director of College and Career Academies, to get us started. Yay.
Thank you. Good evening, good evening. Thanks. Okay, so, our mission and vision with Akron Public Schools, College and Career Academies, we take this very seriously in everything that we do, that our scholars are going to be college, career, and life ready, and that we're providing innovative educational experiences, which you're going to hear about two of these really great ones tonight, and that all of our scholars are architects of their future, prepared to thrive in an ever-changing world. Move that up. We're going to focus on the cornerstone partnership, family, and community engagement because these two partnerships bring so much value to our students and our schools and the work that we're trying to do, making sure that we are being inclusive and responsive to the experiences that students are having. So with us tonight, we have the GAR Foundation and the Youth Success Summit. We work closely with them in College and Career Academies, and we're going to start with GAR Foundation tonight to hear what's happening next with the essential experiences, brief you on what they were, where we're at today, and where we hope to go next, and the same with Youth Success Summit, also affectionately known as YSS. So you've probably heard that term quite a bit, but it's the Youth Success Summit. We're going to understand the impact of these partnerships and as we move forward and what support we're going to need from you. We have with us tonight, and I'm going to go ahead and let them stand and introduce themselves. Thank you for having us tonight.
Rob Blair, Vice President.
Thank you, Anne.
Good evening. Thank you so much for having us. I'm Rachel Tecca. I'm the Executive Director of the Summit.
Hi, I'm Dominic Waters. I'm the founder and executive director of Akron Sneaker Academy.
Hello, my name is Richard Gibson. I'm the new executive director of Students.
Thank you for being here. Welcome.
Thank you. So, like everything, we start our work foundationally with the type of scholar and the competencies we're trying to build across our portrait of an elementary scholar and our portrait of a graduate. I have it set there against the starry sky because these are our North Star documents and they guide us in every conversation we have, whether it's through academics, in our partnerships, in our experiences that we're building with students. We reference and support these as the competencies that we're looking for. So before I get started, I have to do a little interactive item with you. There's a blank piece of paper there in your stack of papers that I gave you. I'd like our board members and our assistant superintendent to grab one, please. And I'm going to give you about 30 seconds on this activity. You're going to need a pencil if you don't have one, or something to sketch with, because you are going to draw. You're not allowed to use any words. You got this? No words, so no cheating. But I want you to think back to your elementary years. Think back elementary, in school, what you were doing, where you were at. But I want you to think of a time that you went on a field trip someplace. Got that picture in your head? teacher took you someplace outside the school walls and you went there to visit. I want you to take 30 seconds and I want you to sketch it. Got it? That's your task. You're going to sketch the event that you went to. Reverend Harrison, how you doing over there? That's okay.
Mine is an abstract.
That's okay. Give up 5 more seconds. Let's see, all of you thought of something. Okay, does anyone want to be brave and share their artwork with the group? Saul?
It might like Pac-Man or something like that. But it was when we went to a cave and we learned about the stalagmites,
Okay.
like the things. That,
Oh,
you
yeah,
know,
the stalactites
came
are the ones that hang down,
stalactites.
they hang down like tights.
Right.
I remember that.
Right, and I cannot find that cave to save my life because I want to take my daughters there. But that really like stuck with me as a child, to an adult. How Earth is made. You know, whatever religion you believe in, I believe in God, and then how He created all of this for us. So
Yeah,
that's
powerful
always
memory.
been on my
Do
mind.
you remember how old you were?
Probably about 9 or 10.
Okay. Great. Dr. Molinar?
Once again, abstract. I don't know if you can tell from my picture.
No, I'm joking.
Is that a whale?
It is
It's
a
really
whale.
good.
So we went to SeaWorld.
Uh-huh.
And I had been to SeaWorld before, but it was a very different SeaWorld experience, even though it was the same auditorium with Shamu, and we were not allowed to sit in the splash zone. That's the waves here. But it was much more educational. They explained to us about the health of the animals, and not just the whales, but they also had otters and other animals there at SeaWorld. And since then, because that was the 90s, this was a long time ago, there has been so much information that's come out about the health of whales and why a lot of those places don't exist anymore, and we aren't visiting them in tourism anymore. And I think back to my childhood experience even now when I'm hearing about research and stories about our orcas.
Great. That's a good one. I love going to SeaWorld. It was some of my earliest experiences, too. We had my high school homecoming there. That was a great one, yes. Anyone else want to share their artwork? Ms. Jackson. Okay. I can't see it. You're going to have to describe it.
This is an elephant.
Okay.
And my earliest memory is the zoo, Miss Pulia's kindergarten class at Rankin Elementary School. And I remember thinking, I don't like outside. Right?
Yeah.
Like, that's all I remember, like, ugh,
Yeah.
ugh. And, like, the smells and things of that nature. That's my experience. And so now, like, as a much older person, recently, this is how those that's why I love you guys, GAR and everyone, YSS, who gives us these gives our children multiple experiences, because I don't have a memory of multiple experience, and I'm going to make this short. But recently, I went to a training at Cuyahoga Valley National Park, right? And they had us outside and showing the different ways that we can engage students with our green spaces around the school. And almost 50 years old, to be able to say, I like outside. No, this is so, like, I really had a moment where I was like, because I don't do outside, like, I can't stay in grass. I had the masonry program come concrete like most of my backyard. Only my brother talked me into keeping a green space. This is the truth. Because from my childhood, I never it's just itchy bugs and things like that. But that experience at Cuyahoga Valley and them taking us through the different programming they had, and it was something for every type of learner, right? Like you can be a kinesthetic, auditory, visual, and they hit every domain, which it registered to little Carla and big Carla. Where I saw how outside can be fun. And so that's why I know the value of these experiential activities in the lives of young people. Because had I had this experience earlier, what would that have meant for my trajectory? Maybe I would have been a science teacher. Instead of social studies, because Adam Otter killed it in social studies. So that worked for me, so I became a history teacher, right? But it just makes me think of those things. So yeah, so the zoo, and I did not like it, but now I'm fond of those experiences.
Great. Do you want to share yours?
I was not as prissy as Carla Jackson. Mine was the zoo also. And I don't mind bugs, so mine was the zoo. I lived in the neighborhood, but it was the peer group, being with the peers. So
Lovely. So what I love about when I hear these stories is they bring you back a sense of home, right? It connects you to community. You remember you both had trips to the zoo, right? A lot of us had trips to Hale Farm. A lot of us have these events and similar experiences. And you also mentioned it triggers something that you got an experience that you might not normally have had, or a different perspective on having it, right? It also sticks with you the rest of your life. You were all able to pick out an image and write it down. And so having those experiences outside the classroom we know are valuable. And having those abilities to connect with others in a different way, or what both of these providers do for our students, right? They make sure that they have experiences outside of the classroom in a new way, new exposure, new things. Collective community experiences are important too. Because as you grow and you have that background to say, oh yeah, I went there too, I grew up there, I knew that thing too. And so all of those things are really important. So I want to start first with the essential experiences. So just so that you're all aware, a little background. There's a one-pager there, that one there, that has the information about what the essential experiences are. But we started these back in 2017. So we are now in our 6th year of the essential experiences. And initially, the thought was, what could GAR Foundation came to then Superintendent James and said, what could we do to help with equity and access for students? And they went through a lot of different ideas, and this idea came up of, some kids can go all through elementary school and never have had a chance to go out on a field trip. Just by nature, the teacher didn't have the funding that year. It happened in the 2nd grade. They weren't there for 2nd grade. Or maybe they got on one and that was it. So the equity and access to really getting these community experiences became something that seemed like a really great idea in order to make this become a reality. So the one-pager gives you some more details, but we were really concerned about how do we get that equity and inclusion for students? How do we tie it to curriculum so that it's more than just a field trip, but a field study? These are robust experiences that prepare the students before they go. They study a topic while they're there, and then they come back. They're inquiry-based, so they have a big question of study around them. They, as we've evolved through these the last 6 years, and they became more and more part of the College and Career Academy work, we really looked at how we were exposing kids early to careers, because you think of a zoo and you think of a zookeeper, right? But they have a whole breadth of careers that happen there, from the people who design and the enclosures, the people that maintain the grounds, the people that do the finances, the people that do the marketing. There's a wide array of careers and opportunities that we expose students to across these experiences. It was really important to us to look at those portrait competencies and ask our partners throughout this work to embed them in those experiences, to use that language and help students draw the connections around the types of careers and the types of competencies that they show, and then the work that we were asking students to do. we knew that it was really important for that Akron history, nature, and culture to be brought early to our students to create that sense of pride and community that we want them to have. And we now have almost 10,000 elementary students that go through this every single year. When we say the word essential, right, it's not just for some. This means all students go to every experience every year. It's not based on your behavior. It's not based on your grades. It's not based on your attendance. It's not based on if you're allowed to. It's not based on if you did something good that you're getting rewarded for. These are guaranteed essential experiences that we believe are that valuable that we ensure that every single student gets to those experiences. So much so that a couple years ago, we applied for the NSBA's American School Journals recognition. There were several hundred entries across the country that put in for this particular award in 2023. And we're proud to say that our essential experiences were awarded the Silver Award, which is only one of 3 in the nation that was awarded for our school this size for innovative programming and educational equity. So what are the experiences that students are currently having? We're currently in round 2, so the fiscal year through 2025. So this is the end of, they go in 3-year rounds. So we had, round 1 was 3 years. We're on the end of round 2 right now. And the current experiences that students have are up here on the screen. They're also on your one-pager that you can read about. But we start with pre-K, so that's the Art Sparks dance program. That is a 16-week dance program in which our pre-K students across the district have weekly lessons about arts, academic skills embedded to music, and they foster all those kindergarten readiness skills that we're looking for, and that culminates in a showcase. We have our kindergarten program with the Akron Children's Museum, just called Monsters and More. They do a lot of early career exploration with the kiddos over there. And all of these are meant to be full-day experiences. So starting in kindergarten, the kids spend a good chunk of the day just at the Children's Museum, diving into activities all around exploration with numbers and career exposure. In first grade, we have the Akron Zoo experience, of course, because what would an essential experience be in the elementary without everybody getting to the zoo, right? And we're surprised about how many kids just haven't been yet. So we have so many that show up that haven't been there, and they're experiencing it for the first time. In this particular experience, it's a great example of inquiry. The students spend a few weeks before they go studying what it means for a living thing to survive. And then they go to the zoo and they see examples of the habitats and what it needs to make those living things thrive. The one that they spend a lot of time on is the Grizzly Ridge. I think it's called Grizzly Ridge. Grizzly bear exhibit. But they spend a lot of time there. They study that exhibit. They look at where the animal gets its enrichment, its food, its shelter, its bedding. And then they have to go back, and they each get their own little stuffed bear, and they have to recreate their own bear habitat back in the classroom. So it carries it all the way back in that type of learning. In second grade, our Cuyahoga Valley National Park, which we just mentioned, they do the Junior Ranger program. I love this one too. They get out there and they put their hands in the pond and they dig out tadpoles and critters. We did this summer. They made us go up and do it. And I'm the same way. I'm not a bug fan, Miss Jackson, but we did dig them out and we put them in little things and we had to write little journals about them. But it just gets back to that literacy and academics piece too. When you think about how can a student read about a pond in a story if I've never had a chance to touch a pond, right? So really valuable experience. Third grade students have been going to Hale Farm and they study the history of Ohio's early communities and how systems were set up for trade, early ways of doing finance, early ways of doing the ways that the communities had to build up and have different roles for different people to make things successful. In fourth grade at the Akron Art Museum, they do a gallery and studio experience and find new ways to see the world for different uses of materials. So at the end of that one, they all create this huge collective makerspace. Every year, the Art Museum takes all of our students' artwork in 4th grade and reserves an art space over there and puts it all up on the walls. I'll make sure you all get invites to that when it's ready, because it's amazing to see every single 4th grader's sort of found art that they create. It's really neat. And then 5th grade, students go to Stan Hewitt Hall and Gardens, and in this one, they study the difference in Akron from 100 years ago and today. So the types of careers, industry, people. They study about the immigrant and migrant patterns and what built up Akron. And then they also look at modern-day entrepreneurs and immigrants to our area. So a full sort of breadth of experiences that grow with the student. These, again, have evolved over time. We keep getting better every year. These partners are so invested in making them the best that they can be. And as I said earlier, we send every student, which was different for some of them, because if you think about maybe before, some students might not have been able to go. So they had to learn how to receive students of a varying needs. Some kids have get overwhelmed in different environments, and they were very concerned about how they could better receive and work with students so that they had the full experience while they were there too. So our special ed department has stepped in and actually provided training to staff in these experiences to help them through how to make sure that those are all accessible, whether it's physical or mental issues that students might be having in a new environment that might overwhelm them. We also looked at different ways to ensure that our ESL students were always being represented and able to access all the experiences too. So lots of evolution. So that's sort of where we're at now at the end of this round 2, so that every single student has an experience, each grade level. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for sharing this information, which I think is fantastic. Quickly before you move on, I'm curious as far as what is the size of the groups?
Yeah.
Because the sessions is saying that it's 50 minutes when they go through these experiences. Like when they go on to these, I'm thinking the on-site.
Yeah, they're on site a good part of the day. Most of them have lunches while they're there and then finish up the experiences. They might rotate through different areas. The zoo, they spend a good part of the day. They stop and have lunch and they go off.
So the approximate experience is 50
they have,
minutes.
I think, 5. Like, for example, at the zoo, they have 5 stations. And so when the students all arrive from a school, we send a school at a time, sometimes 2 schools if they have smaller classes.
Okay.
They divide them up into groups, and then they take them around to the stations.
So about
and
an average group will be like a class size, like you're
Correct.
thinking 1 to 22?
Yeah, sometimes 1 to 12. Art Museum divides them up into smaller groups too, so there's usually like 8 students in a
that
group
sounds-
that they run them through the different stations.
Okay. And you know my question was that as an educator, because when we talk about them having the experience, the exposure, but then the experience being in-depth is something different, which I like that, and that's why I wanted to highlight it, the grouping side, which is fantastic, 1 to 12, 1 to 8, because students can engage, can ask questions, they can get tactical, with the learning. But another thing I wanted to inquire about, because I heard you say about Stan Hewitt with the entrepreneurial piece, but Hale Farm has a wonderful ecosystem to show how entrepreneurship evolved in Northeastern Ohio. Is that highlighted at that level as well?
The early sort of financial literacy pieces of that are highlighted in early entrepreneurs and makers of the time.
Okay, so it does. Okay,
They actually added back in candle making, so because we didn't do that the first round, and we got a lot of feedback that they wanted the kids making candles, so candle making was added back.
And I think that's good for kids to make those connections, and these are part of those real world experiences. And as I always say, that 4th E matters. Because we say enroll, enlist, employ, and then create the job, entrepreneurship. So when they see that it's real and it can be sustainable from past to present, I think that's cool, because like with the candle making and how that can matriculate to now, you know, shop, iron workers, right, and things like that. So I love this, and thank you so much for sharing. I'm going to let you continue, but I just wanted to make sure that I got my questions off. Lastly, for clarity, because I think earlier on, so I don't have to ask it later, did you say something about some type of assessment, career assessment that they're given that shows them kind of where they're more inclined to maybe be inclined to
Right.
go in career. Did you
In
say something?
elementary, not during these. They get a lot of career exposure during these, but our elementary career aptitude testing is through Zello. We have an elementary platform called Zello.
Okay,
that we
great.
do.
Thank you so much.
Counselors do with kids. Okay. So I'm going to let Ms. DeCola come on up and help me out with this one because I want her to speak to you about how they've been funding these because it's different than the traditional, like we don't get a bunch of money for these, right? So I want you to explain how the funding model works with the partners.
Yes, thank you, and thank you for those wonderful comments. This is one of, just I'll say before I address this, on behalf of GAR, this is one of our most proud partnerships of being able to work together with you all and do this for the students in this way. So thank you for the partnership to really make this something special. As far as funding goes, it's a partnership. You heard those words there. So GAR provides the support to the cultural partners for creating the curriculum, staffing the experiences, having trained and guided educators leading and working with the students through the experience. So our component of the funding is for that piece, along with the thought partnership and collaboration with your team. From the APS standpoint, the commitment is threefold: being able to provide the transportation for the students to get to the external experience. The food, and I'm not exactly sure how that piece works. It's through through whatever, yeah. And those meals are brought so that the students can enjoy those on site. And then, really, one of the key factors that's been critical to the success of this work over the last 6 years was a dedicated staff person. In Marcy's department, it's been Tricia Kelly in the past few years who has really been responsible for being the liaison, coordinating all the logistical pieces to make this happen smoothly and efficiently so that it is experiences for all kids every year. Is that it for you?
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you so much. So yeah, when we get ready to do this next round, the providers put their grant requests into GAR and they fund them. And part of the expansion over time has been, initially we didn't have a kindergarten experience. They added in the kindergarten experience for us towards the end of the first round. And then as the providers looked at expanding and being more robust with how they were servicing the kids on site, they looked at staffing. So the dollars that they get help support the staffing as they're receiving our students too, as well as the material and the curriculum development. And all those pieces. So as she mentioned, Tricia Kelly does an amazing job coordinating, making sure 10,000 kids get moved in and out of experiences all year long. The Akron Zoo also has a push-in piece where they come in and do the Zoomobile on site. That's going on right now, so that one actually has a two-parter. So she communicates with all the schools and the teachers so they know when to go, what they need to do. They don't need to worry about any of the transportation. They just get their permission slips and get the lunches, and they take the kids and do the activities with them. So at this point, we've done a lot of professional development and with GAR and Tricia, making sure all of that's coming together. I have included in your paperwork the draft MOU that will be coming to board on December 9th. That has the information, hopefully get it into for the December meeting. But it outlines what we just talked about. This is the commitments we've done the last 6 years. So they make sure we have the experiences, we make sure we get the kids there. So that's basically how that works. And then once that's done, GAR will take it to their board for, I think, mid-February was when their next board meeting is. And then from there, we'll start kicking off looking for the providers for round 3. And start laying out what they will look like for the next 3 years. So, yes. Mm-hmm.
When you say the providers for round 3, so do you research the essential experiences and then inform them that they need to submit a grant proposal to GAR? Is that how that works when you sit to find providers?
Yes, but now that we are moving into phase 3, we're talking about years 7, 8, and 9.
Yeah.
we're not sort of starting from scratch. Many of these same providers, many of these same programs will be utilized again. We'll continue to look for ways to tweak, ways to continually improve. There may be a provider or two or an experience or two that we may bring in a new or different opportunity, but it won't look vastly different from the makeup that you're seeing today. So we are already engaging in conversations, joint conversations around what makes sense from a curricular perspective from APS. How can we enhance the work we're already doing, and who's doing this work really well and might be great opportunity for our kids.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay. And then I did want to point out, we gave you some invites. One is for the, it's a colorful piece of paper that says the showcase. I would highly suggest, I think it's already on your calendars, but there's several date options. If you need something to make you feel really good and you want to see 3- and 4-year-olds dancing their little hearts out, it is definitely worth going to check out one of the showcases. They get very excited to be on the big stage at either Firestone or North. So and it's great when there's an audience cheering them on. So if you can attend one of those and see the culmination of the work that they've done all semester, please do so. There's also another board member invitation that I've given you. That has a bunch of options here, and I can make sure these get on your calendars as well, but I wanted to explain it. We asked the providers for some experiences that were going on right now that you are welcome to pop into, and they gave us a list of options. So the Children's Museum gave us a few options to go over and see what's happening with the kindergartners. The actual zoo site visit is over. We tried to get that out of the way while the weather was still nice, but the Zoomobile classroom visits are happening right now. So Hatton has offered to have you come see what those look like in the classroom. Akron Art Museum as well is a great one to go see. All of them are great to go see. You can't go wrong, whatever you choose. But they've given you the directions and pieces, as well as Stan Hewitt with Mason CLC to see what the 5th grade scholars are doing on site there as well. So if you want to go see some of the essential experiences in action, you've got plenty of opportunities to go check some of those out. I'm going to come back over here. But I do want you, I don't know if you saw this little news article that came out a couple weeks ago. Savion is a Bookdale CLC student in the education pathway. As part of the education pathway, he's been doing an internship as a docent guide for the elementary 1st grade essential experience. He received training on how to guide the students through the experience. He is a senior. And this past October, as they go and they greet the kids as they get off the bus and cheer them and all excited. And as they got off the bus, the teacher, and I'm probably going to mess her name up, Miss Caparuschio, got off the bus, and they looked at each other, and Savion goes, Miss Caparuschio, and she goes, Savion. Turns out that he was one of her students when he was in 1st grade, and so he was now leading her class of 1st graders through the experience. So it was a really touching moment, just sort of that full circle moment of, this experience coming around. Now, Savion would have been a little too old to have participated the first round, but the zoo's hope was eventually, as this keeps going, they're going to start to see kids coming back who were in the experience as 1st graders. So we're getting there. So we'll be going into 9 years after this round. So they'll be almost there, right? So I just wanted to share that piece with you. Any questions about the essential experience part I can answer?
Pastor Harrison's been recognized.
I want to thank GAR. When we're talking about equity and we're talking about inclusion, a lot of these places, a lot of these kids live within 2 miles of these areas, and they would not have this experience. Even though these places are in their neighborhoods, they would not have these experiences without you. So I want to say thank you for what you do for the APS kids and what you do in Akron. Thank you very much. I wanted to ask the dedicated staff, what fund is that paid through?
General fund. She's a CCA specialist in my office. She's also working on elementary partner partner build-outs under the direction of Miss Beth Winter. But this has been her work the last few years to make sure that all these experiences are taking off. She coordinates, with all the partners and the times and when they're available to send kids and all throughout the school year.
Okay. So the $1.3 million that we provide, I'm going to say match for any should I be using a better word?
Are you seeing the 1.3 million that the GAR provided?
No.
Okay.
They
Yeah.
provided 3.3.
Yes.
And that goes to the partner organizations.
Right.
The 1.3 that we provide is the transportation.
Yeah,
That's reflected in the transportation,
correct,
the
yes.
food, and
Over
the
the cost
dedicated
of the
staff.
3 years,
Okay.
correct. It's the percent of her full-time salary. We estimate the cost of transportation, loading up all the food, what it costs for our employees to do all that work.
Okay. So I would make the point that that's a cost that we would have anyway. It's a lesser cost than we would have to take the children on the field trip if we had to pay for it out of the district.
It's on our own employees we already
Yes.
have in place, correct.
So just want to say again to GAR, thank you, and just wanted to make that point.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you. I also want to say thank you to JR and everyone that has been involved in this. I'm going to speak now. I'm going to use this opportunity to speak now actually as a parent and say thank you as a parent whose children have been through these experiences. My son got in the car today to remind me yet again that his field trip to the Akron Art Museum is tomorrow. He is looking forward to this. Both of my kids have enjoyed everything. Last year, or when he went to Hale Farm, they did the candle making. We still have the candle. He will not let us use the candle, move the candle. We have it on display. My other son, they Zoomobile recently came to his classroom. The little grizzly bear has a name. It is part of our family now. It has a very elite spot on his bed. And Art Sparks. He was an ELP student, and so I do want to second everyone go to this ELP showcase because I, as a parent, I try to give my kids experiences. I try to think of all of the things. I probably would not have thought of music and dance class, but the way my child thrived and the ELP and watching them, because they don't just dance, they sing and dance, and and my son's group, they were signing, and so because of how much he enjoyed that, it has affected now in the past 2 years other things that we've signed him up for. We did the Art Sparks summer experience also, and also the little take-homes, his Art Sparks t-shirt, the candle, the grizzly bear. It's a constant reminder and conversation in our home and with our neighbors and with our grandparents about the wonderful experiences that our children are having. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll make it quick. You talked about students being overwhelmed, and you talked about different disabilities and things like that. Also, as Pastor Harrison stated, children that live right in that neighborhood never have the opportunity to go anywhere. And I never understood that as a child, why such and such that live next door has never been to Canton. And as an adult, I understand now that some kids just don't have the opportunity of transportation, or their parents don't know. So, parents know what they know, and when they're not educated to understand that there's things here in Akron that you can do for free or just a couple miles down the way. So I appreciate that, just giving our children an opportunity. I will say my daughter did go to the Cuyahoga Valley National Park, but they do a 3-day overnight trip there, which was a great break. I'm not going to say that was a great break, but they learn about all of that too. So all of this is amazing. Thank you for all that you do, GAR. I know we work together on many different levels, but just thank you for just seeing how important this is for our children, because they're our community. They're the people that's going to be taking care of us when we get old. So thank you guys for seeing that vision. Thank you.
Okay, so we have two-parter tonight. We do have our YSS group here tonight, so I want to talk about the second half of this presentation, focusing on another way in which we approach these types of experiences and opportunities for students and this space beyond the school day. We've talked at length before around how that space is really valuable and important. We know that students and scholars are at most risk in that time from like 3:30 to 6:30. And we know how important it is that the more we can engage students in that time, in the summertime, that we really see the opportunities for them continue to come together. It helps enhance their positive youth development. Again, more exposure and opportunities to things you might not normally or even have a chance to know about. We know that we are working in the city across for youth violence reduction and the import of having students involved in quality programming. As a strategy to help with that reduction. We know that when students have more opportunities like this, that their educational achievement improves. And as we also look at these as ways that are preparing our youth for college and career, because it's really hard to become something that you never get a chance to see. And we know that, right? So when they have these sorts of opportunities that they might not have, I go to some of our, our camps and our summer camps, and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's just so much out there that you don't know what you don't know. So it's great to be able to have these with students. So that equitable access is really important. Major cities, and I can let Ms. Rachel Tekla talk to this a little bit, but if you look at some of the trends that are happening in large urban districts around the country, there's always a lot of youth providers in cities. They do things like athletics, mental health, academics. There's always all these people working with kids in the community. And what cities have started to get wise to, what if we could coordinate them and come together as a sort of a coalition, build up our collective resources together, be able to share our practices, share our ideas, work together to improve our programming, and be able to collectively say, this is what Akron or our city has to offer, right? So the YSS is built sort of on some of those other national models that are looking at ways to bring those youth organization, youth services in cities together. You want to speak some more to that? Did I hit it? Okay. So I know we spent a lot of time looking at Boston, and Boston was a large, urban city. They have a lot of like water type activities for kids and a lot of youth development activities, but they had a program called Boston and Beyond, thank you. So Boston and Beyond. And so sort of modeling what they were doing to bring these youth providers together. So that's what we've been working on with APS and College and Career Academies and the Youth Success Summit the last couple years has been really working on that design and now bringing all those providers together. So this past summer, we were thinking about how could we start to really build out something across the two organizations. And this idea of a middle school's adventurers camp came up. And it was meant to be something that was co-designed differently, because a youth provider is usually somebody that's working independently out in the community with their own goals and missions and how that they're providing services for our youth. And then we asked some of them to sort of raise their hand and volunteer to be a part of this, and I'll tell you who they were here in a second. But they were paired then with some APS teachers. And the teachers in the middle school and the partners got together and they thought about what it would look like to have this enrichment activity steeped in inquiry and academics, but in a way that kids didn't always know that it was your traditional academics, right? It wasn't come in and learn math. It was come in and we're going to show you math in this really cool way, but working with that provider to make that happen. So they spent some time early this spring sort of planning and how to engage that, but that was the concept, was to sort of try this different way of approaching a summer camp as a partnership between our teaching staff and some youth providers. So we wound up with two programs, and we had Students with a Goal and Vincent House, which are here tonight representing. They created two different programs, one around sneakers and one around architecture. And we had some career alignment. We had 35 seats for sneakers and 20 seats for architecture, and we filled all but one of the seats. The kids showed up for those programs. So that gave us, about 53 students across the pilot that tried it. Those teachers, again, co-designed it, and then they also stayed and ran the 3-week project-based learning experience alongside the provider. Do you want to speak a little bit to what the design of the programs looked like? Or anybody wants to? Yeah, middle school.
Are those the providers behind you, Ms. Tecca?
Yeah, and we're
I
gonna-
would like them to come up to the mic.
They're definitely gonna be up here speaking.
Because I see this clock.
Come on up.
Yeah, because if they're presenting, because I see this clock with 5:15, and
know.
I like to be prompt, and I want to recognize them.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Board, for allowing us to share some of the work that we partnered with APS this summer. I really wanted to say, when we really looked at what we wanted to start with, we intentionally chose middle school because, one, we looked at what was already offered for our elementary students and our high school students. There were some robust offerings. Middle school was our space that had some opportunities, right? The second part is we know that our kids are most vulnerable in that middle school space, right? And so when we talk about violence reduction, prevention, we wanted to make sure our kids had something to get engaged with this summer that kept them safe, but also kept them learning. I want to talk about the design process, and I think that's the next slide. So we, I think Marcy's being generous with the timeline here. I think these were our goals. I don't know that we hit all of these dates exactly, but what I will say was both the APS staff as well as our community providers dug in a really quick amount of time, designed an amazing 3-week summer learning experience. We kicked off with kind of a meet and greet where we got to know each other because we wanted to make sure we were on even ground, knowing that everyone there was working in the best interests of children. The second thing was we spent a week together in problem-based learning training led by Sam Cruz in the STEM middle school, STEM Learning Network, a whole week together, and then they had a couple days to get ready. We actually launched the Adventurers Camp in July, so it was a 3-week program that we offered in July. The data that you have in front of you really speaks to the fact that we had youth across the city figure out how to get themselves to and from the Vincent House on the east side and students with the goal or swag in our west side area. So good representation. I think the attendance rate that you see there with 90% in the Sneakers Academy and Architecture at 92 for the entire 3 weeks is impressive. And I think that speaks to the 3 men behind me and their leadership for those 3 weeks. Some really good information there for you to look at, but I think I want to spend our limited time, as Ms. Jackson mentioned, really allowing our providers to share the experience that they provided for our middle schoolers. So I'm going to turn it over to Akron Sneaker Academy founder and executive director, Dominique Waters.
It's an absolute pleasure to be here. Thank you for your time. And this summer was a dream, really. The collaboration was phenomenal. We created what Rachel likes to say, high-quality programming in our community. It was hands-on. They solved a real-world problem. So we challenged them to design a custom sneaker for Lucky Shoes, a brand founded in Akron. So they got to really spend 3 weeks in an immersive sneaker experience, but they were up to the challenge, and it made it real for them. So it was called Sneaky Learning, where they're having fun. It's hands-on. They did research. They were innovators. They got to create. And like you said, it was students from all over the district, so it was very collaborative across our community. And they solved a real-world problem. And the biggest feedback that I got from the students is that the science and engineering week was the most fun for them, which was kind of shocking. We were at Summit Lake, so we took them outside. We dipped shoes in water. We did durability tests. We had them cut up a pair of sneakers. They're like, oh, we never got to do this without getting in trouble, which is great. And we also taught them about polymers, which is a huge factor in sneakers, and it's a big industry in Akron. So that was the first time many of them learned about polymers. The APS partnership was critical. The teachers were phenomenal. They really helped to bring out out those learning outcomes, but they also kept me in line too, like, hey, we got to get through this. But they were, Skylar and Shanique were amazing. And then the biggest takeaway I had from the camp is that we had 100% parent participation.
All right.
Every parent came out at the end to see what their kid was learning because they came every day and they were excited about it. So it's just a phenomenal experience. We hope to expand it. We would love your support to do that next year.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your brevity in going through that. No, I'm not going to cut you off. I'm not going to cut your wisdom.
No, go
I
ahead.
appreciate it.
Okay.
And then I want this group to go up. But I want to say something about you, sir, because, yes, you. I don't personally know this young man, right? But I know he's the real deal because we do have a young entrepreneur who hosted an event and has been grinding since she was 16 years old with sneakers because she was a young girl, went to STEM middle school, and she was fascinated with sneakers because she was always taller and bigger. Long story short, you spoke into her vision, you supported her. I know for a fact that you encouraged her, and it meant something when you were at the unknown, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm glad to have you in our organization because I know you're the real deal. And that's all I care about is people, are you really about these kids?
Yeah.
And it's not just a paycheck. It's not anything for you. I know that you have a passion and a heart because I seen how you inspired the Sneak Geeks event when she had it at House 330, one of the first public events that they had as a young entrepreneur. And she's in Paris right now.
Yeah.
She worked Paris Fashion Week, and she mentions you often. So I want to give you that shout out to let you know that God honors our work, right?
Yeah.
And when we plant seeds, you know, it's continual. So God bless you and thank you. And I'm glad to know that you're doing something with our learners in APS. Thank you. All right, continue.
I don't know if I can follow that up.
Yes, you will. You will. You will.
So to everybody, my name is Richard Gibson. I'm the new Executive Director of Students with a Goal. And I want to say it was an amazing partnership to even start out while we were transitioning in leadership at SWAG for me to have a good pivotal role in working with Sneaker Academy as well as YSS. So for us, we provided such as meals as well as volunteers. We sat there and provided 5 additional staffing, 2 paid staff, as well as 3 volunteers. We were a mixture of our high school students that we had to sit there and just work with the students and act as mentors and guides for them. So this Sneaker Academy, it actually transpired, it inspired a lot of our students because some of those students within Sneaker Academy end up joining Students with a Goal the following fall semester, in which 3 of them are current 6th graders that have GPAs of almost a 4.0, and I've been taking 9th grade algebra within our program. So I say thank you so much. It was a good honor to work with this, and I hope that we can continue to have good partnerships with YSS as well as with SWAG itself to be a good pivotal role within this community. So thank you.
Thank you, and I like how you threw those numbers out because we want to see output, right? So that GPA matters. Thank you. Young man, please.
My name is Damian Jackson.
I'm
sorry, that's Richard. I'm sorry, I'm my bad.
Yeah,
I'm
Richard
sorry.
Gibson.
Okay. I don't know how to follow that either. So, yeah, we at the Vinton House were super excited for this opportunity to work with Akron Public Schools. I've been doing youth ministry, youth programming for about 10 years, and everything that I do is centered around exposure. Growing up in Akron, sometimes you just don't get it. Sometimes you don't realize what's around you because your world is so small. So we brought kids to the Vinton House and we presented them with the problem. So the Vinton House has a large sanctuary space that at that point was being unused. So we took that space and we said, hey, put whatever you want in this building. Not only put whatever you want in this building, but put something that helps your community in this building. Figure it out. So we took some time to figure out what an architect does, what their role would be, and we figured out what the community wanted. So a quick story I'm gonna share. I'm gonna try not to take too much time, but it makes me super excited. So we decided that the best way to figure out what the community wanted was to ask them. So we decided to go to a local coffee shop called 647 Coffee, and we said, hey, we're gonna ask all of these people what the community needs, what they want. And if you've ever worked with middle schoolers, what you'll hear is, this is stupid, this is dumb, I don't want to do this. That's just what they do, right? Anytime it's a new experience, they get nervous, they get frustrated, they don't know. So we're in the van, we're on our way, and I'm hearing, this is stupid, this is dumb, I don't want to do this, and it's, once again, just nerves. We get out, and we step into the coffee shop, and you just seen the little professional come out of every single one of them. It was super awesome, and we went on like the busiest day, so they had lots of people to ask, and you could see them get excited as people started to answer the questions, and they wanted to know and what the community wanted and what they needed, and they all got excited. So they went from this is stupid, this is dumb, I don't want to do this, to can we please wait around for more customers so we could ask more questions? Like, it was just a super awesome experience to see them do that. And we took all that data, we compiled it, and we gave the kids experiences that would help them think about what they wanted in the space. So we took them to places like the zoo. We took them to Kent State's architecture building, where they got to see actually high school students that are going to go into Kent State build and things like that. We met with 3 architects, 3 different types of architects, where one who builds houses, one who designs streets and roads, and other ones that design community buildings. So they got to learn what an architect does on a regular basis and how much, how important it is to regular life. And then we took all of that and we compiled ideas of what we could do with the space. So we were able to teach them things like blueprinting and drawing things to scale. We were able to get them to collect data and organize it in a way. And one thing that excites me is always collaboration, working together. So we put them in teams, and they were able to work with kids, and they intentionally had to do it with kids that they didn't know. So just great things, great partnership with the kids. They were excited, so we had them present it to the leadership at the Vincent House, and they all killed it. Like, when I say they killed it, they killed it. They came up with ideas that were just fantastic. And actually, just the other day, I ran into one of the students, and they said, "Are we doing that camp again next year? I really want to do the camp. Please let us do that camp again next year." And I said, "You'll be there, I promise." So, it was an amazing partnership. The teachers were fundamental. I am not a teacher by trade at all. So they, same thing, kept me in line while I helped with the exposure. They helped with the learning, and it was beautiful. It was just a beautiful time. So, yeah.
And thank you for sharing. And I love to hear about the collaboration between, because you all spoke about that, the collaboration between you and the teachers as well as the students. And it just goes, because what you feed is what will grow. And if the expectation is there, the children will always rise to the expectation. Because they do want to be great. And sometimes they just don't believe that that's what's poured in them. So when you saw them step up at that coffee shop, I think about my ELA friends, those English language teachers, when they think about, public speaking, right? Then social emotional learning and being confident in themselves because they have to approach those people. Look at all of those domains that were touched with such activities, and also stretching them, because I said we don't bring the bar down low.
Absolutely not.
We put it up high and let them get uneasy and uncomfortable to stretch. You talk about blueprint designs and all this stuff. Let me tell you something. Y'all know this is where I get excited when I have these meetings. Rachel, Marcy, and to all of our partners, this is how excellence looks different. This is why I became a board member. Let's keep it real. Let's get to the kids, because this is what it's about. And when people come in here and you're doing work that's touching the children, the children are the business, and you are being about the children's business. And I'm on board, and I'm 100% in support. Or I got to come alongside you and get gritty with it, or how I can support you as a board member, because this is what impacts our community, and our future. And I am so thankful that during my season in this seat that I had the opportunity to see this and to hear this, because I'm encouraged by this. And I know I see Chair Dr. Chapman walking in, and I respect you and I respect time. So for the committee, we have literally 2 minutes. So I see Mr. Harrison and Ms. Hall, and you both have been recognized. Please go in that order.
Thank you, brothers. Dominic, Richard, I didn't get your name, sir.
Mine?
Damien. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for the time you put in with the kids. Certainly, any time that we have people working with our children is a good thing. I would like, Madam Chair, to hear a presentation from YSS. We didn't really have time to go into the numbers. We really didn't have time to go into what Akron Public Schools partnership looks like with YSS. I know we talked about reduction of violence, and I know you guys are doing an awesome job with middle schools, but middle school is not where it starts, and I think we need to be earlier in the game, not what you do, but as a community, we need to be in the game a lot earlier. We had 35 kids, so I would like to see a more robust presentation from just YSS in Akron Public Schools, so we can really look at partnerships and what it looks like and how many kids are we serving. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And I just saw Dr. Caver knows that because they do have the previous data from the summer programs and things like that moving forward, where they start at the earlier grades. And they can produce that to show the overall, but I think that would be good information just to give you some foresight previous, but I understand you're talking about to this point. But I know that they do have a presence, just so you can get just some type of...
I would like to engage YSS in a conversation with the board.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Rachel, you know we already worked together, but I just want to say shout out to Richard, Dominic, and Damien. You are what our community looks like also. So you can be anywhere, but you chose to be here in Akron working with our students. You're an example of what black men look like, and some kids don't have fathers that look like them, or don't want to say don't look like them. Some kids don't have fathers present. And by you being a role model and the example that you portray and put on these kids is beyond words. And I thank you for that, because we need more men to step up for our children, regardless if men are in the household or not. We need our children to understand there's more to it than what some of our kids are doing. So by you guys hitting this middle school age, and I've always talked about the middle school kids are left out. We do everything for the little ones and we do everything for the high schoolers, but we miss the beat of these 7th and 8th graders going into high school and then they're lost. You're dumping these kids in high school and they have no clue. But I just want to say thank you again for just setting the bar for our students to let them know they can be great. They don't have to settle for anything less. So thank you so much.
And thank you all again. This does conclude our instructional policy meeting. Dr. Caver, you can have the final remarks.
Thank you so much. Thank you for participating and for coming. We will make sure that we share the presentation with you all. And also there's a teaching and learning update that you can view on the agenda as well. Thank you. Thanks again.